On World News Tonight this Saturday, more arrests expected in an alleged plot to wage a campaign of terror across the United States. A former Nazi appeals for freedom and gets life instead. And fighter Mike Tyson takes on the sport's real heavyweight champion in the courtroom.
From ABC News, this is World News Tonight, Saturday.
Good evening, I'm Aaron Brown. The search for suspects in what the FBI says was a plot by a small group of white supremacists to kill thousands of people is not yet over. 4 people are already in custody in East St. Louis, Illinois, accused of planning a string of crimes, including robberies and murders and bombings. We begin tonight with ABC's Ron Claiborne.
A source close to the investigation tells ABC News that federal authorities are looking for more suspects in the alleged conspiracy. Arrested so far are this man, Michael McGiffin, a former Illinois Klan leader, and 3 other white supremacists who they say plan to blow up the offices of several prominent Jewish and civil rights organizations, the Simon Wiesenthal Center in Los Angeles, the Anti-Defamation League, and the Southern Poverty Law Center in Alabama, a longtime foe of right-wing racist groups. The group also allegedly intended to murder the law center's leader, Morris Dees.
The FBI notified us that they were investigating a plot to kill me, and they've done this over the last several months.
When authorities raided their homes in southern Illinois 2 weeks ago, they say they carted off boxes of evidence that included a hand grenade, a machine gun, pipe bomb, and 30 pounds of explosive powder. At the suspect's detention hearing, an FBI agent testified that the group planned to finance their conspiracy by robbing banks and armored cars, and were going to bomb courthouses and poison municipal water supplies as diversionary tactics.
They were a very serious danger to the community.
The 4 suspects will be held until their trial, scheduled for late April. Sources say they and possible accomplices could face additional charges as the investigation develops. Ron Claiborne, ABC News, East St. Louis, Illinois.
House Speaker Newt Gingrich defended the independent counsel Kenneth Starr today, saying Starr was just doing his job and people need to be patient. But at least one top Republican has lost his patience with Starr's investigation. Here's ABC's Mike Von Fremd.
After 7 weeks of seeing witnesses paraded before the grand jury on the Lewinsky matter, Republican Senate Leader Trent Lott today demanded results from independent counsel Kenneth Starr.
I think that he's had enough time, and it's time to show his cards. If he's got something, go forward with it.
Starr, who is used to defending his investigation from Democratic attacks, responded this afternoon to the Republican Senate leader.
The grand juries are working very hard in both cities, and we're making great progress. They're working very hard, and we're moving very quickly.
But are you mindful of Republicans saying it's time to speed things up? Is that unhelpful?
I have a job to do, and I'm doing my job.
Senator Lott also suggested that after Starr's investigation of the president is completed, Congress may consider an option far short of impeachment hearings.
The House could say, well, it's not serious enough for impeachment, but this is clearly conduct that is on the margin that we don't approve of, and the House Judiciary Committee would report out a censure resolution. The House would vote on it.
Censure is simply an expression of disapproval, and the only time Congress formally censured a president was in 1834, after a dispute with Andrew Jackson over the central bank.
For Congress to censure a president is simply to express itself as being against something that the president has done, but that's a very big difference from throwing him out.
If and when Starr completes his investigation, some in Congress may find censure an attractive alternative, because it offers a way to voice disapproval without a direct assault against a popular president determined to fight to the finish. Mike Von Fremd, ABC News, the White House.
President Clinton was not talking about any of this today. Mr. Clinton used his Saturday radio address to press Congress to pass anti-tobacco legislation the president says will at least help keep kids from starting to smoke. And in Minnesota today, the judge hearing that state's $2 billion case against the tobacco industry ordered the release of thousands of secret industry documents. The industry has tried to hide the documents by claiming they were protected by lawyer-client privilege. The judge says the tobacco industry was grossly abusing that privilege. Turning now to Iraq. 2 weeks after the deal worked out with Saddam Hussein, the UN weapons inspectors have still not entered the so-called presidential sites, which is not to say the inspectors aren't working. They are, but with restrictions. In Baghdad tonight, ABC's Richard Gisbert.
In a way, American Scott Ritter personifies the changes in relations between the UN and Iraq. Back in January, the Iraqis called the UN weapons inspector a CIA spy. They refused to cooperate with Ritter.
We cannot carry out our inspection.
He complained loudly and left the country. Now Ritter's back. He's being allowed to do his job and is saying nothing. In fact, the only people the Iraqis are obstructing are the cameramen trying to take pictures of Ritter and his fellow UNSCOM inspectors.
Please, no.
UNSCOM's new approach is a little more diplomatic, a little less openly confrontational. It does not necessarily mean, however, that the deal negotiated by Kofi Annan and the Iraqis is going to work. The real test of that is yet to come. Annan's agreement compels Iraq to grant UN inspectors access to presidential sites, as long as independent diplomats are also present, something Iraq has refused to do so far. David Kay, a former weapons inspector, says it will take another 2 to 4 weeks before the so-called diplomatic chaperones are ready to go. And time, he says, favors the Iraqis.
It's a cat-and-mouse game of shifting weapons and documentation from one side to the other. Obviously, the longer you have between inspections give you more time to move.
UNSCOM inspectors have lost not just time. With all the delays, in the case of the presidential palaces, they've also lost the element of surprise. And that is one of the few weapons they have in their search for Iraqi weapons of mass destruction. Richard Gisbert, ABC News, Baghdad.
More on this controversy over the UN inspections tomorrow on This Week with Sam Donaldson and Cokie Roberts. The UN Secretary General, Kofi Annan, is their guest. The ethnic hatred that led to the war in Bosnia continues to explode in southern Serbia, in the region called Kosovo. More frightened refugees fled their villages today. Ethnic Albanians there far outnumber the Serbs in Kosovo, but some are fighting for independence. The Serbian army is responding by burning homes. At least 50 people have died, and once again there are accusations of ethnic cleansing. The Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, today warned that this time the United States will not stay on the sidelines.
We are not going to tolerate any return to the politics of divide and rule anywhere in the former Yugoslavia. We are not going to stand by and watch the Serbian authorities do in Kosovo what they can no longer get away with doing in Bosnia.
Secretary of State is on a tour of Europe. She spoke today in Rome. Still ahead on World News Tonight on this Saturday, presidential hopefuls, right, already off and running. After 3 separate trials, a former Nazi officer faces final justice. And a college campus with an unidentified sitting object.
This is World News Tonight, Saturday, brought to you by Kellogg's.
Of all the things you can do to be healthier, nothing's easier than eating a bowl of Kellogg's Complete Bran Flakes. Kellogg's Complete Bran Flakes. This you can do.
You were going to try the patch, but you didn't. You were going to try the gum. You didn't.
And you're still smoking. It's time to see your doctor about totally different ways to help you quit. Not a patch, not a gum, but prescription medicines that can help separate you from your cigarettes. Ask your doctor or call 1-888-959-STOP. And finally, break free from smoking.
I don't compromise on my laxative. I want both strong and gentle, so I choose Docalax.
Docalax is strong, so effective doctors recommend it most, and it's gentle with comfort coating. Why compromise? Get strong, get gentle, get Docalax.
I'm 67 years old and I may bend, but I never break.
TwinLab Joint Fuel nutritionally supports healthy joint and bone function and helps you do the things you love. At GNC and other health food stores.
In California today, a mission to recover wreckage and bodies from a Navy helicopter crash that killed 5 people. The pilot was apparently trying to make an emergency landing yesterday when the chopper crashed in the San Bernardino Mountains. Flags in Connecticut were flying at half-staff today in honor of the 4 state lottery supervisors gunned down yesterday in Newington, Connecticut. Officials say a disgruntled worker killed the supervisors before he killed himself. This is the winter of '98. We remind you of that because we're about to talk about the presidential campaign for the year 2000. Yes, that campaign is on, proving that it is never too early to start looking for votes and campaign contributions. Here's ABC's Bill Rediker.
And the race is on. In New Orleans today, Dan Quayle looked for support at a GOP convention. In Iowa, Bob Kerrey held forth on television, while Lamar Alexander attended county caucuses. In New Hampshire last night, Vice President Gore held a fundraiser. In New Hampshire, home of the nation's first primary, residents of these picturesque towns have already run into 18 presidential hopefuls, looking for votes in crowded diners.
Sounds like it's a little too early to me.
I think you hear enough of it in the end without hearing it so early.
How early? 2 full years before New Hampshire's primary, more than 2.5 years before the election.
We don't even need to have a Democrat or Republican convention because we pick them right here, early on.
Which is why candidates come to New Hampshire. The state's primaries have an uncanny ability to correctly predict presidential winners. Candidates say they're here earlier than ever to court political organizers and get their names out front. Ordinarily, there's a decent interval between campaigns, a time when politicians actually govern. But these days, there's not much of an interval and not much shame either.
It is quite shameless, if you will. I mean, there's no real pretense about it.
How are you? Thank you.
And history shows early birds don't always win.
I think an early start is about as important as the phase of the moon.
How important is that? Not too. The Old Farmer's Almanac asked readers to compare the phase of the moon on every election day with who won each presidency.
And they came to this conclusion. We do not think that the moon influences the outcome of presidential elections.
So like the phase of the moon, an early start may mean nothing. But 4 more hopefuls are headed this way beginning next week. Bill Rediker, ABC News, Dublin, New Hampshire.
In Texas, an outbreak of strep has now claimed 26 lives, 9 of them children. As we reported last week, both Texas and Illinois are suffering from a dramatic surge in a dangerous strain of the strep virus. An information hotline is getting some 300 calls a day from worried parents. The renowned physicist Stephen Hawking has some predictions for the next century, and he offered a few of them at a White House last night, part of the President's Millennium Evening series. Hawking, who has Lou Gehrig's disease, speaks with the aid of a computer.
Genetic engineering on plants and animals will be allowed for economic reasons, and someone is bound to try it on humans. Unless we have a totalitarian world order, someone will design improved humans somewhere.
Hawking says genetic engineering may be needed so humans can keep up with their own scientific and technological advances. When we come back, a former Nazi officer gets life.
Men, is gray hair sneaking up on you, right under your nose?
It is sneaking up on me. Here, too.
You need Just for Men gel. Brush in, and in 5 minutes, rinse.
It's the sure thing for a natural look.
Just for Men gel.
Bebop, brand new Brummel and Brown. Buttery bliss on bagels, bold and baked potatoes. A bit on buckwheat's his boss.
New Brummel and Brown, the creamy taste of butter blended with the goodness of yogurt.
New Brummel and Brown, yeah.
They don't drive yet, but they drive nearly everything we do. Heading out, picking up, dropping off, and hurrying home, only to do it all over again tomorrow. And in between all the starts and stops, we ask ourselves, are they safe, secure? Are they having a good time? Delivering cars and trucks that people count on is what makes us General Motors. Delivering them in more ways than anyone else in the world is what makes us People in Motion.
We've got the whole day ahead of us, and he had to get heartburn.
Who knew they'd have such good onion rings?
He still thinks he can eat like a kid.
I can.
I just pay for it.
So I told him, would it hurt to take Tagamet with you?
Good idea, because Tagamet is fast and it lasts. Tagamet is proven to start reducing stomach acid faster than Pepsid AC. And unlike regular antacids like Mylanta, Tagamet lasts for hours and hours.
He never listens.
Now I don't have to. With Tagamet, you can eat like a kid again.
So you just stop by your neighbor's to borrow some ice when something catches her eye. It's the prize patrol, and you both scream! And you both start running, but time seems to stop when she yells, "It's you!" And you yell, "It's me!" And woo, they've got flowers and balloons and a big check. And they say, "You just won the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes." And you collapse into the prize patrol guy's arms, and he's much thinner than he looks on TV, so this must be real.
Enter today, and it could happen to you.
Sunday on This Week with Sam Donaldson and Cokie Roberts.
Leaking the president's deposition plus Kofi Annan on Iraq. ABC Sunday.
In Rome today, what appears to be the last chapter in one of the very last Nazi war crime trials. Erich Priebke, a former SS officer, was looking for a reduced sentence. The relatives of his victims say he found justice instead. Here's ABC's Mike Lee.
Erich Priebke chose to leave the courtroom before the five-man military panel announced his fate. The Italian word ergastolo, life sentence, triggered an eruption among families of his victims. I didn't expect such a sentence, says this daughter of one of Priebke's victims. At this moment, I'm thinking of the pain of all the relatives who were living a lifelong sentence while he spent his life in tranquility. Erich Priebke might have spent the rest of his life in the freedom of exile in South America, but in 1994 he was found in Argentina and confronted by ABC's Sam Donaldson.
But why did you shoot them?
Priebke was arrested, brought back to Italy, and put on trial. He was one of Hitler's elite SS officers stationed in Rome when hundreds of Italian men and boys were rounded up, taken to these caves, and executed. Priebke admitted to ticking the names of the 335 victims off of a list, even shooting 2 of them himself. His defense? I had to follow orders or be shot as a traitor to Hitler. At his first trial in 1996, Priebke was found not guilty, and the victims' families flew into a rage. Last year, he was retried and found guilty, but sentenced to only 15 years, and even that was reduced to several months for time served. But Erich Priebke made the mistake of appealing that light sentence, and this time the court seized the opportunity to put him away forever. Erich Priebke himself may have best summed up this long drama when he made his speech in court today. It doesn't really matter who I am, he said. I have been chosen to keep alive the memory of all the evils of that time. Mike Lee, ABC News, London.
When we come back, boxer Mike Tyson takes on the promoter Don King in court.
The magazines tell you to be a size 4. They tell you to be 10 years younger. They tell you to look like her. Don't listen to the magazines. Women's Ultra Mega Multiple Vitamins from General Nutrition Centers contain calcium, folic acid, and other vitamins, minerals, and herbs that love your body the way it is. Those magazines have no idea what they're talking about. Women's Ultra Mega Multiple Vitamins, exclusively in the women's section at GNC. Live well.
Sun is rising. See it shine, shine. Looks like a great day. See it shine.
It's a great day for the comfort and convenience of changing tint Transitions lenses. Indoors, they lighten. Outdoors, they darken. So lightweight plastic Transitions lenses are right in any light. Make the change to Transitions lenses and see for yourself.
It's a great day.
Transitions lenses, right in any light and right for you.
Greetings. I'm speaking to you from 30 years in the future. No, really, look. I just thought you'd like to know how a few things have worked out.
Time to feed dog.
Specifically, the Fidelity Roth IRA. Now, somebody back then was really thinking. Tax-free earnings and distributions. Heck, I make withdrawals every month, and I'm not paying a dime in federal taxes.
Dog. Time to feed dog.
So open a Fidelity Roth IRA today.
You were going to try the patch, but you didn't. You were going to try the gum. You didn't.
And you're still smoking. It's time to see your doctor about totally different ways to help you quit. Not a patch, not a gum, but prescription medicines that can help separate you from your cigarettes. Ask your doctor. or call 1-888-959-STOP. And finally, break free from smoking.
Casey Martin, the young man who won the right to use a golf cart after he sued the PGA, is playing this week in Austin, Texas. ABC's John Frankel is there, and he joins us now with the Martin story and the rest of the day's sports. John, good evening.
Good evening, Aaron. Many of the fans came to see Casey Martin, the guy in the golf cart. They're also seeing Casey Martin, the golfer. Casey shot even par today and is 6 shots behind the leaders. The New York Yankees have signed pitcher Orlando Hernandez, a Cuban defector, to a 4-year deal worth $6.6 million. That's about $2 million more than his half-brother Livan Hernandez, the World Series most valuable player, gets from the Florida Marlins. I'll reserve commentary on that. Also back in the news this week, boxer Mike Tyson. Recently there were reports that Tyson was broke or down to his last several $million. He blames Don King, his longtime friend and associate. Now Tyson is suing King for $100 million in damages.
He is a former, undisputed, heavyweight champion of the world.
It was one of the most lucrative partnerships in sports. But now Mike Tyson is using the courts in hopes of landing the knockout punch on the controversial king of boxing.
I don't owe Tyson a dime, and the records and the evidence will bear that out.
Tyson claims while he was in prison, King duped him into signing contracts without legal counsel, that King paid Tyson's managers millions to ensure their loyalty to the promoter, and siphoned off millions more to pay bogus consulting fees to members of King's family.
Don King stole $50 or $60 million from a young athlete who trusted him, looked up to him as a father figure. This is one of the grossest betrayals in the history of capitalism, not just boxing.
This is just the latest in Don King's long history of legal problems. Several fighters have brought similar claims of mismanagement. And next week, he goes back to court on charges of criminal insurance fraud. Through all this, King has always managed to survive and prosper, and vows he will again.
Mike Tyson is being manipulated. He filed a lawsuit that is totally meritless.
The irony is, many believe King wooed Tyson away from his previous managers by warning they would steal his money.
Tyson has very profound emotional and psychological problems that Don King, in his brilliance, knew how to exploit and manipulate.
If this case goes to trial, it could produce the most revealing look yet at Don King, the most powerful man in sports. And one final sports note. Today in Anchorage, Alaska, the ceremonial start of the 26th annual Iditarod dog sled race. The race officially starts tomorrow when 63 teams take off on their 1,100-mile trek to Nome. First prize is worth $50,000. And I think the whole crew and I are happy we're here in warmer Austin, Texas. That does it for sports. Aaron?
John, thank you very much. And coming up, just what is that object flying high above Cornell University?
Is there a store between here and the Canadian border we haven't been to?
Come on, couple more stops.
Honey, I'm beat. I'm starving.
Here.
Ensure bars?
Complete balanced nutrition. To go.
Introducing Ensure Bars, a source of complete balanced nutrition, packed with protein, vitamins, and minerals to help you stay healthy and energetic.
Delicious. What's next?
The Canadian border.
I'm ready.
New Ensure Bars, from the #1 doctor-recommended liquid nutritional supplement to your health.
After his heart attack, Ed's doctor told him to exercise and take aspirin regularly. So he takes genuine Bayer aspirin to help prevent a second heart attack. Ask your doctor. But then there are those days when Ed's muscles ache, and Ed could use extra strength Bayer. Nothing is stronger for everyday pain. If you're on an aspirin regimen, you don't need Tylenol, because doctors say you can take more aspirin for pain.
How are your legs?
Great. Race you home.
Bayer, powerful pain relief, and so much more.
If you experience vaginal dryness, now there's Vagisil Intimate Moisturizer. It's like bringing back your own natural moisture. Just a few clear drops replace your body's own natural moisture, relieve dryness, and it's smooth as liquid silk, never greasy. Developed with a woman gynecologist, Vagisil Intimate Moisturizer has natural aloe, and it's safe to use every day. It's like bringing back your own natural moisture with Vagisil Intimate Moisturizer.
Solve the art heist of the century and $5 million could be yours. Here's your competition. Forrest Sawyer, ABC News Saturday night, 10, 9 Central.
In West Virginia, it is now legal to eat animals killed on the highway. Really, it is. The legislature there passed a bill to save money. If drivers take the carcasses home, the reasoning goes the state will not have to pay the cleanup crews. No estimate on how much money the state will save. Finally tonight, a mystery, another one. It's confounding the best minds at one of our best universities, and ABC's Bill Blakemore thought it was, well, ripe for his attention.
Far above Lake Cayuga's waters, very far above, a mysterious object appeared on October 8th at the tip of Cornell's bell tower. It looks like a pumpkin, but 5 months later, what it really is, or how it got there, remain a complete mystery.
Stands a noble orange pumpkin, clearly to be seen.
They've rewritten the college song.
Who can tell from whence it came, there silent and alone?
Now the college is sponsoring a contest to find out what it is, but students are not allowed to leave the ground nor climb the scaffolding that's just been put up for long-planned repair work on the tower. One group is trying sharp, hollow needles.
This string will be attached to the ground, so we can swing it at impact and take a sample out.
Their balloon launch was aborted due to high winds, but another balloon team did get a sample by hoisting this contraption, complete with remote control power drill and its own balloon cam. Up, up, and contact. Is that a real pumpkin? Back on the ground, they took their sample off to a lab for DNA testing. They're awaiting results. Agriculture professor Molly John is breeding a new strain of pumpkin on campus.
If it's a real pumpkin, you can bet we'll be in line to get some seeds.
Since pumpkin publicity could bring extra grant money for her, this professor is under suspicion. But if she and her mysterious colleague George Moriarty did not do it, who did? We went up for a look. Even with this platform and railing here, it's still quite frightening to look down. So for somebody to climb up inside this tower, somehow get this trap door open, and then scale the very top of the tower up to the very lightning rod, that had to be one crazy rock climber, if that's in fact what happened. What has happened is that every department is fighting to explain it. A sociology professor.
A paradox, after all, is compelling, not because the problem is important, but because the solution is difficult.
Indeed. A theologian.
And the pumpkin is welcome as a new mystery.
Cornell was founded as a non-sectarian institution. No one theological perspective will dominate the debate about the great pumpkin.
If it in fact is a pumpkin, the botanical name for which is, of course, Cucurbita maxima. Bill Blakemore, ABC News, Ithaca, New York.
That's our report for tonight. Later on ABC News Saturday night, the story of a master art thief and the missing masterpieces. That's tonight at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock Central Time. Good Morning America Sunday tomorrow. I'm Aaron Brown in New York. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.